The Dancing Ladies of Moscow Table of Contents. Whispers in the Shadows, Moscow, 1995. Winter's grip tightened. Snow fell like a shroud. In the heart of the city, whispers began. Strange whispers about dancing ladies. They appeared at twilight, in the shadowy alleys behind hospitals, schools, and churches. Old women mostly, some middle-aged. Their faces pale blurs beneath woolen scarves. Their movements a slow, swaying waltz. No music accompanied their dance, just the sigh of the wind and the crunch of snow underfoot. Those who saw them spoke of a chilling silence, a void that swallowed sound and stole your breath. The Alley. Behind Hospital Number 5, the first reported sighting. A young nurse finishing her shift. Exhausted, she took a shortcut through the alley behind Hospital Number 5. The snow fell, obscuring the world in a white veil. Then she saw them. 3 figures swaying beneath the lone, flickering streetlight. Old women, their faces hidden in the shadows. Their dance, slow and hypnotic. The nurse stopped, transfixed. A chill ran down her spine. They moved closer, their steps silent on the snow. The nurse backed away, fear gripping her heart. She turned and ran, their silent laughter echoing in her ears. The Night Watchman's Tale. Word spread quickly. Rumors whispered in hushed tones. The night watchman at the school swore he'd seen them. A dozen or more, dancing in a circle. Their eyes, he said, glowed with an unnatural light. He tried to approach them, to ask what they were doing. But as he got closer, a strange compulsion came over him. His feet moved, mimicking their steps. He tried to resist, but it was no use. He danced with them until dawn. When the sun rose, they vanished. The watchman was found, collapsed in the snow. He couldn't speak, only tremble and weep. More and more people came forward, each with a similar story. They had seen the dancing ladies, felt their pull. Some had been lucky enough to escape. Others weren't so fortunate. A young policeman investigating the reports disappeared one night. He was found days later, wandering the streets, babbling about a waltz with the dead. His eyes held a vacant, haunted look. The city was gripped by fear. People avoided going out at night. The alleys, once bustling with life, were now deserted. The dancing ladies had cast a long, dark shadow over Moscow. The authorities were baffled. Theories abounded. Mass hysteria, a new street drug, an elaborate prank. But nothing could explain the strange occurrences, the disappearances, the haunted looks in the eyes of those who had danced with the ladies. The stories spread beyond Moscow, whispered across telephone lines, printed in newspapers. The world watched, captivated and horrified, as the city on the brink of a new era grappled with an ancient terror. The dancing ladies had become a phenomenon, a symbol of the unease and uncertainty that gripped Russia in those turbulent times. But what did they want? Where did they come from? And why did they dance? Trapped in the dance. One night, a young journalist named Anya decided to find out. She had heard whispers of strange occurrences in the alleys behind the old hospital, tales of ghostly figures and eerie dances that defied explanation. Armed with a camera and a desperate hope for a groundbreaking story, she ventured into the labyrinthine alleys behind the hospital. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the crunch of her boots on the snow-covered ground. The snow fell, silent and heavy, blanketing the world in a cold, white shroud. Each flake seemed to whisper secrets of the past, adding to the eerie atmosphere. She found them at the end of a narrow passage, shadowy figures, barely visible in the dim light. Swayed as if caught in a trance. 4 figures, swaying in the dim moonlight. Their movements were slow and rhythmic, almost hypnotic, drawing her in despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Anya raised her camera, her finger trembling on the shutter button. She knew she had to capture this moment, no matter how terrifying it was. As she focused the lens, their heads turned. It was as if they sensed her presence, their attention shifting to her with an unnatural synchronicity. Their eyes, dark and empty, met hers. A chill ran down her spine as she felt their gaze pierce through her, freezing her in place. A wave of dizziness washed over Anya. The world around her began to spin, the figures blurring into a nightmarish swirl of shadows and light. Her legs felt heavy, her body moving without her consent. It was as if an invisible force had taken control, guiding her steps against her will. She tried to resist, but the pull was too strong. Every muscle in her body strained against the unseen force, but it was futile. She was trapped in their dance. The figures moved around her, their ghostly forms weaving a web of terror that ensnared her completely. Anya's heart pounded in her chest as she realized there was no escape. Seeking answers in the ruins. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. The once bustling streets now lay silent, shrouded in an air of mystery and despair. The townsfolk whispered among themselves, sharing tales of the eerie occurrences that had become all too common. Anya was never seen again. Her disappearance was the first of many, each one more baffling than the last. Flyers of missing persons fluttered in the wind, a grim reminder of the growing list of the lost. The police searched, but the alleys held their secrets close. Despite their best efforts, the darkness seemed to swallow any trace of the missing. The community grew restless, their hope dwindling with each fruitless search. The dancing ladies continued their nightly ritual, their numbers seemingly growing with each passing night. Their ethereal forms moved gracefully, yet there was an undeniable sense of sorrow in their dance, as if they were bound by an unspoken tragedy. A historian, driven by a sense of dread and morbid curiosity, began researching old Moscow archives. He was determined to uncover the truth behind the spectral dancers, hoping to find a connection that could explain their haunting presence. He searched for any mention of dancing women, any clue to their origin. His nights were spent poring over ancient texts, his days consumed by the relentless pursuit of answers. He found fragments of stories, whispered legends of a time before the revolution. These tales spoke of a group of women whose lives were cut short, their spirits left to wander the earth in search of peace. He discovered tales of a group of noblewomen brutally murdered during the Red Terror. Their deaths were violent, their lives stolen in a moment of chaos and bloodshed. Their spirits, it was said, were trapped, forever dancing in the places of their deaths. The historian felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the gravity of their plight. Their only solace to draw others into their macabre waltz. The historian knew that the key to ending their torment lay in understanding their story, and perhaps in finding a way to set their souls free. Echoes of the past. In the heart of the city, where shadows whispered secrets, and the wind carried the weight of forgotten tales, there stood an abandoned Gothic building. Its walls, once grand, now crumbled under the weight of time, and its windows, shattered, reflected the sorrow of countless souls. The alleyway beside it was a place of dread, where few dared to tread after nightfall. Armed with this newfound knowledge, a group of brave souls decided to confront the dancing ladies. They had heard the stories, the legends of the spectral dancers who appeared with the first snow, and they were determined to put an end to the haunting. They gathered in the alley behind the hospital, armed with crucifixes, icons, and the desperate hope that faith could overcome fear. Each member of the group clutched their religious items tightly, their knuckles white with tension, their breaths visible in the cold night air. As the first snowflakes fell, the figures appeared. The air grew colder, and the silence was broken only by the soft crunch of snow underfoot. The group watched in awe and terror as the ghostly figures materialized before them. Their dance was slow, mournful. Each movement was deliberate, filled with a sorrow that seemed to echo through the ages. The figures moved with a grace that was both beautiful and haunting, their forms barely visible through the falling snow, like a lament echoing through the ages. The dance was a silent cry, a plea for release from an eternal torment. The group could feel the weight of the centuries in each step, each turn of the spectral dancers. The group approached them, chanting prayers, their voices trembling in the cold night air. They hoped their prayers would reach the souls of the dancers, offering them peace and release from their endless waltz. But the dancing ladies did not flinch. Their movements remained unchanged, as if the prayers were nothing more than whispers in the wind. The group's hope began to wane as they realized the futility of their efforts. They continued their waltz, their eyes fixed on the group. The intensity of their gaze was unnerving, as if they could see into the very souls of the onlookers. The group felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold night air. One by one, the group members felt the pull. It was an irresistible urge, a compulsion that grew stronger with each passing moment. They could feel the invisible threads drawing them closer to the dancers, the irresistible urge to join the dance. Their feet moved of their own accord, drawn by the haunting melody that seemed to emanate from the very air around them. They reached out, their hands trembling, as they moved towards the ghostly figures to become part of their silent, eternal chorus. The group members, once filled with determination and hope, now found themselves lost in the dance, their voices joining the silent lament that echoed through the ages. The dance continues. The dancing ladies remain a chilling mystery. Their haunting waltz continues to echo through the alleys of Moscow, a reminder of the city's dark past and the shadows that linger beneath the surface. Some say they are gone. Others whisper that they are still out there, waiting in the shadows, watching, waiting for the next soul to draw into their dance. The snow continues to fall. The dance continues.